Guys, welcome back to the shop. Today's exciting day. We have the new Flatline Vanco roof rack system. Just came out about a week ago, and my Kurt van customer over here, Thomas's van, we are putting it on his van. It is a mid-roof 2020 Ford Transit, and yeah, we're gonna go ahead and unbox this. I've never seen this before because it's so new. I've just saw the pictures online, but yeah, we're gonna open this up and show you guys how to install the new version of the Flatline Vanco roof rack. All right, we got two boxes here. So a little bit different shipping than the last time. This system apparently has the new fairing with it. So that's gonna be really cool. But yeah, UPS just dropped this off today, so I'm really excited. And to my knowledge, this is one of the first ones that have been delivered. So got a cool sneak peek here. All right, so the bigger box looks like the actual roof rack system itself. So the first thing I see is an automotive trim gasket, and this looks like this is what's gonna be, according to the pictures I saw, this is gonna go underneath the fairing so it doesn't rub up against the top of the van. So we got that. I'm just gonna be setting this stuff aside as we pick it out. This looks like the front fairing clips. So little angle brackets right here. We have our Tr0104b Hardware Kit. This says A on it. Okay, so this is going to be just all the mounting hardware for the plates that sit on top of the van. And I'll show you that in just one second. It's just a spacer box. There's nothing in that. There we go. So these look like the new style brackets. There we go. Let's take one out. So we've got, let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 of these. And this is a lower profile style bracket. So if you guys can see that, it's a bracket. It's not the L bracket like they had before. So it's way, way reduced. And it has pads pre-installed on the back. So these don't fall off. They're actually glued on the back, or they have like a little sticky adhesive. And so there's an open channel here. So like we did before, we were putting some sealant on this back side to do the whole entire pad. Since this pad is separate and just for support, this side over here, we only need to seal this little hole, which is really nice. And to make it even nicer, this bracket has a angle to it. So the Ford van is actually angled like this. So the van has the curve and the roof rack is now going to be straight. So far this is really nice design. And then we have our two plates. And these two plates are what actually join each side together. So you're gonna have these. So if you watch the last video of the Flatline Vanco roof rack, it comes with these, aluminum plates that go, and this is what actually makes up the structure of the roof rack. However, you'll have this one is actually looks like the passenger side, and it's the front. So the new redesign has this taper down here in the front to hug the contour of the van. Very nice. And then as we move towards the back, we got these two little holes, and this plate is actually what's going to connect these two to make it one solid piece as it goes all the way through the back of the van. So I'm looking at this, and it looks like it's really nice design. Very, very similar to what is already on the van over here that I just put on in the last install video. You guys can click up here to check that out. Now this, it's got a little Flatline Vanco logo. Looks like it was like water jetted out or laser cut. I'm not sure how they do this. But yeah, it's just the same, except this bracket is way, way lower profile. So pretty excited to see how that goes together. You got your pad, bracket, goes right here. So that is what it's going to look like for this new version. Again, this is for a mid-roof van, so I'm anticipating this angle is a little bit more milder on the mid-roof, and then if you get the high-roof version, it's a little bit more aggressive. So, I mean, that's really pretty much it. Yep, we got the front, the back, we got our brackets. So all that is pretty self-explanatory. You'll see that when I install it up here on the roof. So I'm going to close this box up, and we're going to open up our second box, and I'm pretty sure that this is the new redesigned front fairing. Actually, hold on, I take that back. This is probably just crossbars, yeah. Okay, this is just the crossbars in here. Same standard 80-20 style crossbars. Which means I got too excited, and if I open the first box back up, probably going to see the fairing at the very bottom. Okay, so they package this with the fairing at the very bottom, and the fairing is not aluminum like the old one. It's way, way different. And it's actually, let's see, what material was this? I'm not sure if it's ABS. It's not acrylic. I'm not sure what it is. I'll probably put it in the video here. But anyway, this is the new fairing. So it's flexible. It's not like the other one. And I'll go ahead and take it out of here. Be careful, these edges are extremely sharp right here, so you could cut yourself. It's got two sides, so one side is shiny, and then one side is a kind of textured matte finish, and it's made into the plastic or whatever material this is. It's not painted on or anything, so yeah. So this is going to go on the front, and my understanding, the whole entire point of this redesign was to get the low profile lower, and then there was some complaints about noise from the old front fairing. So this should decrease, if not eliminate, the noise that was being talked about. And yeah, so looks good. All right, so you know what time it is now. It's time to start installing this. We use the same process as we did for the van over here with the version 1 of the Flatline Vanco roof rack. But for this one, installation looks like it's going to be exactly the same. May even be easier, and I think the appearance is going to look really, really nice. So we'll go ahead and roll that time lapse, and hope you guys enjoy. All right, the first step is to get out a heat gun if you have it, and keep it on low, but you just want to warm up to get this plastic cap removed to expose where the threads are going to go in the top of the van. There's 8 positions. You're going to clean each one off. Goo Gone works the best. Let it sit there for a minute if it's a little tough, but do that, and then once you're finished, you're going to clean it off with denatured alcohol before you set the pads on. All right, so we've cleaned off the roof. We've removed all the adhesive that is underneath each one of these holes. And we've gone ahead and take our bracket, put that on top. As you can see in this hole, we had to grind out this top part because of the way the hole sets in here. So these 3, we didn't have to do it. This one we did have to. It's rare. I'd say maybe 2 out of every 8 holes, maybe you need to do a little bit of grinding on here. And that's just so the bolt can go down straight and it doesn't bind on the inside. So once you have that finished, you can line it all up. And the next step is to get your screws. But you'll probably see this in the time lapse. Before we put this down, I will put some sealant right here. There's a real tiny bead. And then I'll also put a small bead at the top of this screw. I'll show you. So here's your hardware. They actually give you some tools, so technically it has what it needs for you to install it, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like IKEA style. It's really thin metal. These are the screws that are going to help you install those brackets like I was talking about. And at the top of this head of the screw, that is where I'm going to put a little bit of the sealant. And they give you these washers. You get a rubber gasket on the bottom of these washers. So the bolt goes through it, but that where the bolt head and this meet, that's what I make sure is the seal. Because the rest of this does a good seal. The bottom of it is going to seal to the plate and to the van. But this top part, that's where I want to make it nice and sealed. Just a real small dab of sealant right there, and it'll be perfect. Moving them down, you've got the bolts right here, and I'm assuming these, I know 4 of these are going to be used for that plate I was telling you guys about earlier. And then this will be the fairing hardware. This will be for your 80/20 cross members. And this is the T-slots for the 80/20 to hold the fairing in. 99% sure that's what it is, but you guys will see in the rest of the video. All right, once we have our pads bolted in, we're going to go ahead and start taking our beams and bolting them on. And you just want to do it loosely. As far as the sealant, I will show you that in a later part of this video. All right, guys, we have the passenger side on the van, and a couple of quirks here that I have found installing this new rack. Pretty much straightforward. It's the same thing. The brackets are designed a little bit different for that low profile. These side rails are pretty much the same. The way you mount it here is the same. And I'm not sure if I actually explained this in my last video, but when you're installing this passenger side and the driver's side, these 2 pieces, when you bolt this down here and here, they might be out of alignment because it's really just the nature of the van, because these 3 brackets are pretty much on one sheet of metal in the van. There's a dividing section here, and this is on a different one. So if you tighten this down here and here, it's going to torque it, and this is not going to line up. So as you're assembling this, you want to make sure front to back, left to right, that it's loose. It's tight enough to stand up on its own, but you want it to be loose. That way you can get this adjustment of the front and the back level right here. Then your outer bracket, you can clamp down with these 4 bolts, and you can make that, you can tighten this down fully, this bracket, and then that way both of these are together and they're now acting as one piece. The reason you want to have this loose like this is because, this is just my opinion, but when you go to do the other side, you want it as loose as well, because when you put these cross members in, you want each side to be able to pull together perpendicular. So they come together and then they're all true. So like this and the crossbars are one unit. And then once that's tight and this side is tight with the crossbars, then left to right you can center the whole entire rack, and then you can also center it or adjust it forward to rear as you need. That way, if you do one side and bolt it down tight, you do the other side, bolt it down tight, and you put the crossbars in, you're kind of torquing it a little bit, because there's no way that you're going to get this side and that side perfect your first time. So keep it loose so that you can pull them together with the crossbars themselves, and then you can go back, add your other bolt down here, and actually tighten everything up. That's just what I've found with my installing this rack. Other than that, it's such a great roof rack system because it's very simple to install. Anybody can do it. Like I said, the tools are in the box. You really only need a wrench and that Allen wrench that comes with it. I'm using my tools, but we're going to keep going here. We're going to do the driver's side. We'll put our crossbars in, and then we'll get our front fairing on, and then we'll be finished with this this install. Okay, we're on the driver's side of the van. I wanted to answer a question that I think is going to come up in the comments, and that is how tight to tighten the bolt of this bracket. So one thing that Flatline Vanco did really well is design the bracket's surface area. So that's what force is pushing on the roof of the van. The way that Ford designed this threaded insert underneath the sheet metal, they didn't put any support around it. So if you tighten it down too much, you could bend the sheet metal of the roof. However, Flatline Vanco's bracket's nice and big and fat and has padding, so don't worry about that. But when you tighten it down, you need to make sure that you put Loctite on it, number one, because you're not going to be able to crank it down so tight that it stops turning. You're just going to crank it down enough to just smush a little bit of that gasket washer, and you'll be good to go. All right, so real quick before we go further on the time lapse here, I wanted to show you how I'm actually preparing this bracket. So it's really nice, like I said, because this is separated. You can only worry about applying like a sealant over here. Now, there's really no reason to, because this is going to make a really good seal as long as you clean the top of the van really well. I mean, this is going to cinch down and really make a good seal. But I want to be, really make sure that it's a good seal. So what I've been doing is I've got this stuff right here. It's called Dynaflex Ultra. It's an interior-exterior sealant, and it's actually lifetime mold, mildew, algae resistant. It is rain and paint ready in 1 hour, so it has a nice quick drying time. And it makes like a little gasket. But what I do is I just apply it right here. Just a really, really thin bead. Just to that. And then when it, pinches down onto the top of the van, it's gonna make a nice seal. And then what I do next is I take the bolt that goes into this bracket with the washer. Now this washer has a really good gasket inside, so the way they designed this is really nice. So you just push this on, and it's already got a good seal around the screw. But again, just for a little bit more insurance, I just take a very, very, very small bead and I run it around the top of the head of the screw. And then I just take the paper towel and I just spin it so that there's just a very small bit, so that when this cinches down here, now the bolt in the head is sealed, and then this gasket can seal on the van. Now when you tighten this, you want to tighten it until the rubber starts to slightly bulge out. Don't over tighten it to where you start cracking all the rubber all the way around, because that's going to create cracks and then water is going to be able to get in there. So you can see how it's kind of tapered right now. You want to tighten it down till it's flat, but don't tighten it so tight that you're tearing the rubber down here, because that'll make it not seal. And then last but not least, you're going to want to take try to get this all the way to the top. There you go, just right below the top of this. And then what you're going to do is take Loctite. Now this is the blue 242, which is the liquid. And you're going to take a Loctite, and you're just going to take it and pretty good generous amount like that on the threads. That way, when you take this plate and you put it down and you put this in, you tighten it down really good to where this rubber just spreads a little bit, like I was saying, and then it's going to give a good grip without the Loctite. The Loctite is just additional insurance that it's not going to back out over time with all the vibration that you have in a van. So these are the two things that I recommend personally. Again, I don't think Flatline Vanco says that you need to do this, but just me personally, I like to do this. Good insurance to make sure that everything is nice and watertight. Okay, we're back on the driver's side. Got our brackets in. Gonna put our last two rails on here, and when I'm putting them on, I believe there is 8 bolts per section, so I'm only putting 2 in each, and that allows me to move around easier. Again, I'm putting the first one in loosely, just enough so it stays vertical, and the same one in the back, same thing. And then that plate that goes in the middle, you can put it on the inside. I put it on the outside, but I'm going to change that. For some reason, when I put this together, I put it on the outside, but I'm going to move it back on to the inside so it's nice and clean on the outside. So essentially that is just keeping those 2 bars together nice and straight. And then the next step we're going to do is start to put in our front fairing. All right, so we have our roof rack. Actually, I've got to take you guys off the tripod for a second. So we've got a roof rack up, and if you can see, I didn't tell you this before, but there's a taper on the front, and then there's a taper on the rear. And obviously the rear goes down more vertical. Most would be that's self-explanatory of what's the front and the back, but just in case somebody is very new, that's what it is. These front 2 screws are where the 80/20 bar is going to go. These more forward 2 screws, they connect to this bracket. So you're going to have one of these brackets on the right, one's the driver's side, passenger side, and then you're going to have these supporting pieces right here. And if you look, this one is longer. This one is about the same as this one. So we're going to have this one over here, this one over here, this longer one in the middle. So you can kind of see that you kind of get like a fan shape. And so we've got our fairing. We're just going to orientate it to the way it would be on the roof, which is, I'm assuming, the more aggressive curve is going down. The straighter one is going up. gonna take our bag of screws here. Which ones are we gonna use first? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, so this plate we will use. Missing some hardware. Well, I'll start off with what I know. Our T-slots need to go in here for this piece. I have this in there. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So our T-slots are for these middle pieces. Oh, and then we'll use the nuts for this, for the fairing. In the second portion, we'll use the black screws on the ends. And then I guess we'll use the black screws for the front. All right, let's do that. So the 80/20 bar is going to be laying down flat, and then when you put in these T-slots, I'm going to put a lock washer on, and then so you want to have this little part sticking up. You need it facing down, otherwise the T-slot can't actually fit through there. So you're not going to put this on here and slide it. You're actually going to take the bracket right here, and then you're going to just loosely put on one of the T-slots. Just a little bit. And then you're going to take another screw, the lock washer, another T-slot, make sure this part is facing down and the flat even part is up. And then imagine our fairing is kind of facing up, so we're going to take it and we're just going to feed it in here. I don't know if you guys can see that. So you're just going to take it and then feed it into the bar, just like that. And then this is going to be our center one, so get it pretty close but keep it loose. We'll center it when we put it on here. Next, we're going to just keep repeating. So we're going to take this bracket right here, take our T slot, another screw. Oh, we forgot our lock washer. Slide it in from the opposite side. We're just going to finger tighten it just a little bit by enough to where we can still slide it. Now, you see what I just did? I put this in backwards. Don't do that. Flip it around. Put it back in. Keep it nice and loose. Now this one, the opposite side. Screw lock washer. T-slot. When I do 80-20 inside the van, I have these roll-in T-slot nuts, which are really nice because imagine if you had this bar already in place and you wanted to put a bracket, you'd have to take the whole bar out to slide this in, and they make a roll-in that has a little spring on it, and you roll it in, you can put it right on it. So you guys might have to check that out in another video. I'm just gonna take this and put it down there. I put it in backwards again. That's what happens when you film it live. All right. So again, just nice and loose, nice and loose. Because not only are we getting this, maybe you can see now, okay. Not only are we getting it left to right, but up and down. This up and down is how we're gonna angle it, contour to the curvature of the roof. So now we're going to put this down here. A little bit more of a stable area. Don't need any more tools. I didn't mention this. That hole that I cut out and grinded, I put rust preventative on there. That's what this is. Anything that you expose bare metal, you need to put rust preventative on. All right, so next we're going to take this and we're going to put it on here. I think before I do that, I'm going to take this weather strip in here and put on the fairing. All right, we're back. We got a fresh battery. Where to leave off? We got our fairing out and we're going to put the weather stripping on. So gather these two ends and then pull this out, and then you'll find the center. And then we're going to keep the channel side towards us and then the squishy side forward. And just put that in the center. I haven't put this on before, so I don't know how much force it's going to take. I think we actually might need to get a hammer, tap this on here. A rubber mallet. We're gonna start from the center, work our way out. okay if it falls off. Get one side started and just keep going. You'll get a technique for how you're getting it to snap on. Essentially, there's like a little piece of metal spring in there, and you want to just open it up so it goes down, grabs. I'm barely hitting it because I don't want to damage this, because in the middle here it's open, it's actually not touching anything. So the left and the right are the only sides touching. You'll know it's seated when you hit it and you feel like you can feel like you're hitting the plastic. So that feels good. Okay, I'm trying not to pull up on this because when it's on the van, I'm sure it's fine. The one's going to be pushing against it. It's not going to come off, but during this install process, it might be pretty easy to move. So now we're going to take our flex screws as there's no other screws left. Just tilt this down, and I'm just going to go straight for the middle first. And again, you get adjustment up and down here. That's what I like about this kit at the moment, is there's a lot of room for adjustment, which is very good. Because Ford is actually the one that is not the consistent person here in this equation. So we're just going to tighten this just enough to where we still held down, but we still get movement. It's a little loose. Gonna do one more here, and I'm gonna move to the outside edges to show you guys that, and then we'll get back into probably some more time lapse. And I'll just talk to you about this one, and then I won't get this on video. But essentially, this is going to mount to here on this bottom side. And let's make sure here. Yeah. So this is a taper. It's angled, so when it goes up there, let's see what this looks like. Okay, the smaller the screws that are the two holes that are tighter in go to the outside rail. So the passenger side, and then flip it over driver's side. The more elongated ones on the outside are the ones that are gonna bolt into the fairing right here on the back. So that is what we'll show you when we get it up on the van. All right, it's time to get this fairing up on the van, and I had to think about how I was going to do this because there's so many points on this fairing that need or have adjustability, and to make the decision on what you tighten down first versus what you tighten down when it gets on the roof, I had to kind of think about it. So the brackets attached to the fairing, I tightened those down 100%, but I left the 3 brackets, the back side that attaches to the 80/20 rail, or that cross member, I let it be loose. And my thought was, it did work out, is that once I get it up there, I can bolt it in, and then that adjustment that I have from the bracket interacting with the 80/20, I can push the fairing down and get that gasket to make a nice even seal. It worked out perfectly. So the hard part is when you decide to install it like that, you gotta have small hands so you can get into behind the fairing and get everything tightened down, and you have to have a ton of patience. I mean, a ton of patience. I would say if you're doing this outside in the full sun, you might lose it because it's pretty tedious. It's not hard by any means. It's just taking the time to be patient to screw one screw down at a time. And that's what you got to do. So I did that, worked out great. What I'm doing now is putting in that 80/20 bar. And if you noticed, when I put it in on one side, I kept it loose, and then went to the opposite side that I'm on now, driver's side, and I tightened it up more, and it pulled in both side rails of the roof rack. And that's what you want to do. Remember, with these cross beams, when you start to install them, you want to start from the front and go all the way back, because the way that the rail is on the side, it has like a lip that turns in, if you can see it, and it's impossible to get the rails in if you've fully tightened the roof rack to the roof. So just do one cross member at a time and kind of taper your way back, keeping everything nice and loose. And then when all the crossbars are in, then you can tighten it down and then go back to your brackets, bolting the roof rack to the roof and tighten everything down. Now, a little hack that I do, if you see I have a little rag, and I put since I'm doing all this solo, I put the rag at the end of the cross member. I'm going to slide it across the roof and make sure I don't scratch anything. And what I'm doing, again, working my way from right to left in this view of the camera, and just putting it in one bar at a time. And again, as I said, you start working your way all the way back, and everything's going to go nice and easy. Now, I'm putting a fan up here just as a visual because I wanted to see if Flatline Vanco had moved the location of the hole right behind the fan, and they didn't, for obvious reasons, because the way that they put that mount in is right above the bracket point. So, but they do allow all these bars to be adjustable. So if you look, there's a place where it can slide and be really like a fine-tune adjustment. So that's all I did. I took it from where it was supposed to go on that second bar and put it in the adjustable slot. And that allows me to clear a max fan at its foremost position in front of a van on a Ford Transit. Now, when you come to the back of the van, again, we're just doing front all the way to the back. When you come to the back of the van, this is the last bar you're going to put in. Now, once this one's in tight, you're not going to be able to add any other bars unless you loosen all the bars up. So that's what I said earlier. Plan ahead, figuring how many bars you're going to add into this, as opposed to just the like 4 standard bars that go over the bracket mounts. And then I think I pull up. I'm measuring for the solar panel, and I needed to add an additional bar, but since I kept them loose, I can pop that one in, no problem. So there we go. I got my extra bar for the solar panel. Again, use my rag trick to just slide that in. Don't scratch anything, and I'm all set. All right, guys, as you can see, we are finished with the installation of the Flatline Vanco roof rack. This is their new version. It's a little bit sleeker in the front and the back. It actually lives a little bit of a taper, a little style to it. The most noticeable difference is the front fairing. So it looks really nice. They've got an automotive trim gasket on the bottom. Makes a really good seal and contours nicely, so looks really good. The rails on the side are about the same as the old system, almost exact, except for the new, mounting style. And what I wanted to show you today is not just the install, since we just wrapped that up in this video, but the main thing that I see when you're putting a roof rack on your van is a lot of DIYers or builders, you'll install the roof rack, but then, as secondhand, you'll put on your vent fans and your solar panel, and then you'll try to, make it work and fit. And the suggestion that I want to bring to you guys today is, when you install this roof rack, you want to have adjustability in the crossbars. That's kind of how it's designed. You have your standard crossbars that are in 4 positions of the van. So you got the front rib. And when I talk about ribs, that's the rib that supports the ceiling of the van itself. So you got the front, you got one here in the middle, one right behind it, and then one in the back. So there's 4 ribs. Those are the ribs that are inside the van. And Flatline Vanco has a standard hole pattern that is designated for those ribs to go in. Now, if you want adjustability, for example, this solar panel right here, the 2 middle bars that I have them on the adjustable portion of the roof rack. And that's because if you decide to do a 2-fan configuration on a Ford Transit, it doesn't matter if it's low, medium, high roof, and it's the 148-inch model of van, your rear one's gonna be fixed, but your front fan, even if you move it all the way forward, it's still going to interfere with this crossbar from Flatline Vanco. What they do is they give you that adjustable option on the crossbars, and there's a slot behind it where you can actually adjust that cross member. And so that's what I did. I did it on the van that's over there with the Flatline Vanco roof rack, as well as this one. So we have that in adjustable position, and then we also have the extra bar that comes with the kit, or I'm calling it an extra bar. And we're using it back here behind the solar panel, and that's going to adjust for our length of the solar panel. So you can put multiple different sizes of solar panels on here. And just to give you guys an idea of what's going to fit, the width of here, this roof rack, 54.25 inches. However, 54 inches is pretty much the number I want you to have it stuck in your head. As far as the length of the solar panel, the maximum length in this middle section, if you're doing a 2-fan configuration with the front fan moved as far forward possible, you're looking at about 38 inches. 38 by 57 is this area. Now, this is Thomas's van, and we're going with a 175 watt Renogy solar panel. This is plenty for what his needs are. He's going to have a 400 amp hour battery bank system, along with the alternator charging, obviously the solar, and then shore power connection. So that's what he's going to use for his power system. Now, if we go up to the front, you do have an area up here And this area is, let's see, we got 22.5 inches by 57 inches. So that is gonna allow you to put an additional solar panel up there if you wanted to expand. There are other solar panels on the market to where you can do, I think Zamp Solar has one they're very skinny panels, but they're long, and they would work on the side here, but they're pretty expensive. I think they're almost $300 each, and it's only gonna be about 90 watts per one of those panels. So lastly, I wanted to talk about the front fairing. Front fairing it's DIY friendly, but you can, putting it together is interesting because you can partially put it together when you are on the ground and then bring it up and then do the adjustments. However, the adjustments that you have for, or when it's on top of the van, they're pretty hard to get to. So I would suggest leaving it kind of loose, put it on the roof, and then dialing it in to the contour of the roof. But just be very patient with that front fairing. It looks incredible, but I'm just saying it takes some patience, that's all. The rest of the roof rack, very, very easy, straightforward to install. And then, yeah, the last thing I wanted to talk about is kind of going back to the beginning here. Don't fully bolt down your roof rack. Now I know that sounds crazy because it's like, hey Nick, I just installed this, what are you talking about? Well, if you're laying at your roof and you need to adjust these crossbars, if you bolt everything down tight, it's almost impossible to adjust these crossbars because you've squeezed the roof rack in and everything's locked into position. If you install the roof rack, but then leave the bolts that connect these pieces, these side pieces to the van, if you leave that slightly loose, so like that, then you're able to loosen your cross members and then push it apart and then readjust them. So that would be my little pro tip for you guys when you're laying out your van. And yeah, the fans that I have on here, the front, the rear, and this solar panel, they're just laying on here. They're not installed. It's really just so that I can set the crossbars where I want them and then set the crossbars for the solar panel. And then once I do that, I can take all this off, cut my roof holes, attach my mounting brackets to the solar panel. And then when I come back on the roof the next time, everything's locked in place and I can just install things much, much easier. So that's going to wrap it up for the installation video on the Flatline Vanco roof rack system. This is their new style roof rack. Again, looks incredible. Very easy to put in. You could do this in a day. And if you guys have any questions on any specifics on how to install this roof rack or anything, like for example, the Max fan here, I've got a video that I'll put a link to right here so you guys can watch that. We will have a future video on installing solar panels on the roof. Yeah, if you have any questions, put those in the comments. Happy to put that into a future video to help you guys out. Other than that, we will see you in the next video.